You can imagine that because of shows like Cops and especially shows that show what prison life is like, crime is going to go way way down because people say what I would not like to go live like that. They don't want to risk getting into trouble. And it's also going to go down because a lot of people they're going to keep themselves out of these cycles of being in crime. So, but anyways, um, you know, these little communities in the Tigris-Euphrates River Valley, they're going to organize, and they're going to organize around religion because you're going to have some charismatic shaman who realize, well, I can just tell these people to live a certain way, and they'll have to believe me. And I'm like, yeah, okay. And part of the way they did that was by monitoring the calendar. So it was always like looking. They always built observatories because they're trying to figure out the calendar. Really, and once they were looking at the calendar and they realized, all right, there's 365 days in a year. How long did it take you to learn the days of the week? By the way, but once you learn the days of the week, oh, okay, so now I understand this concept of time, and daily time, because that's something else that was evolution of man from primate was that we could understand time. We understood that if an event happened, an event's going to follow, and it's at that point in our understanding or in our growth as living Homo sapiens actually that we could really step out from the jungle and into the hut, you could say, because I understood that if I make this shelter, it will protect me in the future. So yeah, that's right when it's born. That's right when intelligence and society is born. Because you have something that's like, okay, well, this is mine, and I want to make sure other people understand it's mine too. But anyways, so the culture that develops is these little primitive mud making hut-dwelling people. They're little simple, domed huts made out of brick, because there's mud everywhere. And that's the only resource they have is brick, and hemp. So like reeds and rope. But it's pretty primitive, lifestyle. But they did practice farming, and that's part of why they were able to grow. But you also realized, well, you had to organize farming, or you could organize farming. And eventually, all these little people live in a certain way. They developed these little kingdoms, little kingdom states, and it's basically just there's little towns, fortified towns, with their neighboring communities of farmland. And so all the farmland within walking distance would belong to the local city, and it was understood to be like that. And then what's going to happen is that, well, one little group, or like one group is they're going to decorate more. They're going to have, they're going to do a little bit of trade, but they're going to start decorating as well. And that means they're going to make, things. They're going to make they're going to make elaborate whatever's, treasures that they wanted to have around their house because they want the place they live to look nice because they live in mud bricks. Well, the neighbors are going to look over and like, hey, well, yeah, they got this well. Let's go get it. And so they just, arm up and go attack and steal each other's well. And they live like that, for a long time. And that's just how they existed. I think once this idea that you had somebody who basically claimed to be the leadership, and remember, the way they got to that point was that they basically claimed, it's my divine right that I live and that I rule over you guys. And, and he enforced religion, which everybody accepted. So, it was understood. And it's, this is like even to Rome, that's how they understood, society was organized, is that there was the divine chose and, a person is designated to lead. And that's just how these little societies are organized. So this concept develops of, a king, a leader of guys. And that concept's going to spread like wildfire because what's going to happen is that, when people are trading, and trade is, occurring everywhere, you ask them, well, who's your leader? Who's your king? Who's your chief? And like, well, what is the concept, that you refer to? Like, well, who is the leader? Who is the guy that you basically take orders from? And it's like, wait, what? We take orders from somebody, or somebody, controls us? And you'll take this thought back with you to your little community or your little not even village, but whatever group you're a part of. You would take this information with you and you'd think about it, and then you start communicating, talking to people, and like I said, the shamans were there, and they're leading little familial groups. But now you have somebody who says, well, wait a minute, I can lead. I can actually, I can take over things, and I can have people follow what I say. And this, like I said, this concept is going to spread like wildfire because people are communicating word of mouth. So you can imagine it would take hundreds of years, for all of the current population of humanity to get it. But it's rather rapid, when you consider it. That's why I think you see these basically developings of civilization all around the world occur, and in all these different places. And the reason why is because, but I think you're going to reach this upper limit of about, who knows, maybe like 6,000 years ago. But 6,000 years ago, and I think that's because by that point you get this really solid idea that exists everywhere that, well, there's a leader, and he is designated to lead, and people accept that. So it's a social construct that occurs, and it's a revolution of of use of terms of language, because now it's like, does the leader lead when he's there, or does the leader lead when he's not there? And that's where the concept arrives, that the leader, he is left, but you're still doing what he told you to do, and you still respect and understand his authority. So, I mean, that's what this, I think that concept is going to really revolutionize, and that's why it took over. That's why everybody wanted to do a kingdom. So, in the little Mesopotamia, the people living there, they're simple farmer folk, but they would every once in a while, turn their hoes into spears and just kind of march against each other and fight. But yeah, it was simple little warfare, and what they did, it's kind of like what they did between harvest seasons. So just whenever they got the gumption to raid each other for food, but really not so much for food, but for wealth, they would do that. So to the north of them were the Medes, they call them, but it was a tribal people who had discovered how to use the horse. And in particular, they made chariots. Yeah, it was they were the first ones to use chariots because the horses were too weak to carry man by then. But you could totally understand and see chariots as like these very simple conveyances of goods. And what they realized is that, well, actually, if you take all the goods off and really strengthen this chariot, well, you can use it for as a weapon. And so that's what they used it for. And they were able to oh my goodness, they introduced the concept of warfare to these, or not really warfare, but they revolutionized the concept of warfare, and just went in and just totally conquered, all these people there. And so they're living together, and it's like, well, what are they going to do? And they lived peaceably. And I think the reason why is because they, it was kind of like, oh my goodness, here these people are conquering us, but it's one of the things in the History Channel they noted about was that the people of Sumer, they had wealth, and that's what these nomads wanted, and also they kind of liked the lifestyle, that was existed there. So yeah, that's what was accepted, and but with this revolutionary concept of warfare that you could conquer and really kind of have a lot more men under your control. Because I think by then you would imagine the idea of a king. It really is what it was that revolutionized this concept, because you'd have to have like a vast army, and you have to have several people who had this concept of loyalty. And loyalty is when the guy's not there, you still follow his directions. Because where before you had slavery, and slavery is just as understood that, all right, well, you're property, and that's how you should live. So what is one of the first things that in the code of laws is that if a slave says that you are not his or her master, then you have permission to cut off that slave's ear. So you can understand that that's basically law instituting this idea that people exist as slaves. Slavery is recognized by this nation, or by this group. but law is like, the revolutionary concept too, because it